So you definitely need that on your CV.
Yeah, I think so. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get an interview.
So adding those keywords will help massively.
That's the sort of keywords that I'd be looking for in a CV.
So adding that outside of your CV can increase your chances.
100%.
Corey, we're back.
Hello, yeah, mate. Back in the hot seat.
It's been a while since you were in it.
Yeah,
I've had to put up with Connor twice.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it.
I don't know how to do it.
Well, he's a fountain of knowledge, so
He is, to be fair.
so you're lucky to have him, I suppose.
Yeah.
But now you're stuck with me.
Back with you again.
Yes,
so
mate.
today, we are looking. Right, I need to get rid of the ums.
Oh yeah.
I need to do like
it's
some.
Too easy
I did it again.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Elocution lessons.
Elocution lessons.
So I used to have the same thing. I used to do a lot of radio work. So I used to do the same thing. I was like, and there was a word that I used to say all the time. I was like, it was amazing. I used to go, amazing.
Just mine's nice.
Yeah. It's funny these
nice.
habits you pick up. So I was like, amazing.
Yeah. So today we are going to look at CVs.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one to dive into, I think.
Because on our full stack course, we have a full section there where we talk about CVs.
Yeah, so
there's adding it through.
Yeah, the full stack security course. Throughout the course, you've got little tips of things that'd be good to see on a CV. And the course, like I said, at the end of the course, there's a whole section on writing a CV for a cybersecurity job. I think a lot of people, certainly people that are already in like the IT space, it's just adding that little extra flair and being cybersecurity mindful, I suppose, when you're creating your CV. So hopefully today we can just cover a few like little tips and tricks, things that we'd look for.
Must-haves on your CV.
Must-haves, yeah, exactly. That's it. Obviously, I'm in operations for a cybersecurity firm, so I kind of know the sort of things that I'd like to see on somebody's CV.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll cover a bit of that today. And then the takeaway from the end of this, for the people that are watching, they should be able to write a cybersecurity-focused CV, hopefully.
Which will put your CV at the top of the pile.
Yeah, exactly, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So it should be, that's the aim. If I get a CV and I see certain words in it, then, top of the pile.
Yeah, nice. So we'll go through different sections of what you should put on a CV.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll just kick it off to start now. Obviously, on the start of the CV, you need who you are, contact stuff. Photo as well, I've heard, is actually a good one to have on there.
Funny enough, like a lot of people say yes, say no. I like it. I had my photo on my CV for years. I don't know if it did me any favours, but
I'd hide you.
I think it's a nice little one to have on there.
Yeah. So you're saying yes because I don't have one on mine.
Yeah, it's a hot topic, I think.
Yeah.
But, it's okay. You never need it again. You're here now.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. So obviously, then you have your name, you have your date of birth, address, all your normal sort of contact info, usually right at the top.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we move on to our next section.
Yeah.
Which we're going to look at. Probably putting right at the top of your CV. After that is your skills section.
Yeah, that's it. So off the bat, I guess you want to know, like I said, who you are, what's your name, where'd you come from.
Yeah.
And then it's...
Was that Blind Date or was that
Take
Me Out?
Now, yeah. It's one of the two. I think it might have been Blind Date. The Blind Dates, I'm pretty sure. What's your name, where'd you come from?
Fun fact for me, I applied to go on Take Me Out
You
season
did?
2. Yeah, and they gave me an audition, but I bottled it.
Wow, how long ago was this?
This was years ago. Season 2, whenever that was. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to you.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's easy. So skills. I mean, I think if you're coming from an IT background and you're looking at a cybersecurity job, there's a few things that you may or may not have done in the past which may be quite directly relevant to the cybersecurity role. So things you may not think about to include in your kind of skill set or your skills list on your CV. Things like firewall management. It sounds quite basic, but if you've done some firewall management before, it is entry level cybersecurity. You may not think to include it on there, but I think it's definitely a good one. Most people in the IT space have done some network security. I think is another good one just to include in there. You may not have done penetration testing per se, but you may have done some vulnerability analysis in the past. Really good key one to get in there. Anything that's kind of around security testing or IT testing in that kind of space, I think is really good to include. Even if you've used any like security tools in the past, people have used like vulnerability management tools, like GCP has built-in security tools. So does things like GitHub. If you've ever used any of the GitHub built-in security tools, I think they're pretty good to include in there. And then there's things like the compliance standards and frameworks. There's quite a lot of them now, and each industry has their own set of compliance.
Yeah.
So any security compliance that you've worked on before, obviously if you've got anything directly specific, to security like ISO 27001, any NIST stuff, that's amazing. But if you don't have any of that, just try and think about some of the compliance standards that you may have worked on in the past, and have you done any security work on there, or anything that would be classed as security. I think that's pretty cool. Other things could be things like encryption, cryptography.
Cryptography. I couldn't say that last week.
Really? Cryptography?
Yeah. Cryptography, yeah.
It's the one that catch you up.
It does, yeah. Well, I got it last week in the end, so.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm going to keep saying it now. Cryptography.
Cryptography. I would try and trip you up. I should have got
you should have
saying this one. Yeah. What's that next one there, Craig?
What's that? Cryptography, yeah.
Cryptography, yeah. All those kind of things that you may have touched on in the past. If you're coming from an IT background, of course not everybody is, but if you're coming from an IT background, you've probably touched on some of the things that we've just kind of listed there. And it's just really kind of, when you're writing a CV, it's just being mindful of security and thinking of the things that you've done in the past and how they could be directly related to the job that you're trying to apply for.
Right after skills, we want to look at maybe some projects and stuff you've been involved in. Maybe highlight some of them.
Yeah, I think so. So obviously we've just kind of gone through a list of skills and things that you probably pick up whilst you're in the workplace. But not all of the skills and things and experience are going to come from the workplace. So it's just, again, thinking about things that you've done previously that could be directly transferable to the role that you're looking at. So a lot of people just join like online capture the flag competitions. There's loads of them out there nowadays. These kind of online capture the flag, red team, blue team kind of things.
Yeah.
So I think if you've ever kind of been involved in any of those, certainly anything that's directly applicable to security, then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you've ever kind of worked on any like open source stuff, so if you've ever built anything in kind of open source space, any security controls that have been applicable to that, really good to be kind of included in your CV.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And when you're looking at these kind of extracurriculum activities, for want of a better phrase, you really want to be, when you're putting it in your CV, you really want to be kind of describing your role within that. So if you've been a lead developer, then you want to kind of outline that role that you've had.
Yeah.
Any like methodologies that you've used, that's a word that I can't say.
Methodologies.
I always get methodologies. Greek mythology, methodology. Any methodologies that you've used, the outcomes that you've achieved. When you're thinking about these kind of additional projects that you've worked on that you're going to put in your CV, you really want to flesh it out a bit.
Yeah.
Like I said, include your role, how you've done it, what the outcomes were, what the objectives were when you first started putting these things together. If you've built your own kind of lab environments, and people do these kind of things, it's amazing to see on a CV, or any GitHub repositories that you put together.
Yeah.
So kind of mentioned GitHub previously, but you may have done something outside of work, you knocked up your own GitHub repository for whatever reason. Any kind of practical experience that you've gained, I think, from side projects, really good to see on a CV. It doesn't always have to be. A lot of people just think of, I'm writing a CV, I just need to put my work experience on there. I worked at this company for that long and I did this. It's a bit vanilla. I think I'd be looking for something a little bit more exciting, so don't shy away from including these kind of additional things in there, like outside of work projects, activities, personal hobbies,
I think they should also be nearer the top as well and stand out a lot more. I think you need to show you've got more to you than just this work side. You need to show that you've got these interests and hobbies that you actually take outside of work and do yourself. It shows you've got a real passion for this line of work, I think.
I think you see so many CVs and you get just a wall of job experience, and at the bottom it's like interests and hobbies.
It's a tiny section, but I feel like it should be up a bit. I keep doing this, like there's a CV in me, but I do feel like it should be nearer the top. Maybe just after your skills and just like, especially if they're really relevant hobbies and interests and stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I always look at some and I always put like reading and that on mine and like reading like relevant topics and that to what jobs I apply for. So
of course. Just even things like that, I think that it's interesting to have included on it. I wonder how many people listen to the Joe Rogan podcast on there or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
Soon it'll be listen to Full Stack Security podcast.
Well, we hope.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Job. You got it.
Yeah.
Right after your projects and achievements, we suggest you put in certifications and trainings and stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So obviously your full stack course has got to be
Full Stack Security
right on the top.
Right at the top. Yeah, amazing.
But then other qualifications in the cyberspace.
Yeah, that's it, and they don't have to be qualifications in the cyberspace. So obviously, you have your Full Stack Security right at the top. Everybody will. There's a lot of free online courses, entry level courses, or cheap courses you can do online, which are great. And then you've got the bigger ones that I think a lot of people do take some online courses, not even though they may not be in the cyberspace already. If you're looking to branch out into the cyberspace, you can always look at doing your CompTIA Security Plus kind of stuff like that. Yeah. You don't have to just be working in the industry and then do it before, get the knowledge there. There's like certified ethical hackers, depending on what level of or what avenue of cybersecurity you go down. I think we've spoke about it on previous podcasts. It's about, there's lots of different avenues of cybersecurity. There's the kind of security testing avenue. There's the compliance and regulation avenue. Depending on what you're going, you can look at doing some online courses that are kind of relevant to whichever avenue interests you the most. Or do the whole lot if you're mad.
Yeah.
You want to do all of it.
Cover
fantastic.
Yeah. And then I think it's worth noting not to leave out, I'd put your security ones near the top of that list, and then just below that, I'd then put things in there like your communication sort of skills. There is like courses on communication and stuff, even like picking up like a qualification like teamwork and stuff like that. There is loads of random little things which would actually be quite beneficial, even like management stuff.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Again, going back to sort of, I think our previous podcast, so there's so many transferable skills from other industries or so many transferable skills into the kind of cybersecurity industry. A lot of it is around like people and process management. So if you've got any people, any certifications that directly respond to that. I did a communication course years ago. I worked in a call centre. And they paid to put me through a communications course. I can't remember what it's called. It probably doesn't even exist anymore because I'm that old. But yeah, stuff like that, great, because it tells me then as an employer that like this person's got they're good.
They're good.
Do you know what? I'm talking about communication now, and I've just all of a sudden forgotten how to talk. That tells me they're good. Unbelievable. But any kind of relevant certification that you've got, primarily we'd be looking at cybersecurity specific ones, but doesn't necessarily have to be.
So after we've put our certifications down and training, it'd probably be good to put like any other sort of contributions you've done towards IT and cyber.
Yeah.
So we'd probably look at like if you've got your own blog, something like that would be good. What else we've got, Cory?
So if you've ever written any online articles, I know a lot of people contribute to online articles, even down to LinkedIn posts. I think obviously I'm not going to expect you to list all your LinkedIn posts there, but if you're active on these kind of social channels, if you do maintain a blog it doesn't have to be cybersecurity specific. If you have an IT blog, really interesting to see the kind of content that you produce on those kind of things. Any articles that you may or may not have published, amazing to see at this kind of level. That you can go all the way down to if you're really at the top of the game, you've done any research papers that you've published, if you've given a presentation at an event or a conference, something like that, amazing to see at this kind of on a CV. But then it doesn't have to be that level. When you're thinking about like things like presentations, public speaking, if you've engaged in with a community in the IT space or the security space, it could be you've given a presentation to your board at work. If you've just recently completed a project and there was a security element in it, how did you present that to the board? Interesting to see that you've done this. I'm not saying you have to include a whole presentation in there, but it's just good to reference these things that you've done in the past, because you see a lot of people that have this experience almost without really realising it. That they've given a presentation, there's been a security element to it. Fantastic, get it in a CV, put it there. That's the kind of stuff that we'd love to see. These little like fluffy extras that you don't very often get in a CV. Just so many times you just see people listing all of this work experience they've got, but if it just says, I worked at this company and I did these jobs, we want to know the nitty-gritty. We want to see the kind of like finer details in there.
Be worth putting in things that going to conferences and stuff. You might have touched on it earlier, but there's loads of expos and stuff in cyber, isn't there? I was quite surprised how many there are. If you've gone to any of them, because there is quite a big community base within cybersecurity. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's it.
There's plenty of forums and stuff you can be involved in. So maybe even just list that you're a member of them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, anything that you're a member of, or you kind of like any community that you actively can contribute to. Yeah, great to include in the CV.
Cool. So we've covered sections we think would be really beneficial on a CV, particularly going into cyber. We also want to think about some of the language you use.
Yes.
When doing it. So hitting like some keywords.
Yeah, exactly. So just think about the way you're phrasing things, I suppose. There's a lot of keywords that would really kind of stand out, I think, if you're putting a CV together and you're applying for a job in cybersecurity. So think about the language that you use. So there's things that we use in our day-to-day lives as a cybersecurity firm. It'd be great to kind of see that reflected in a CV if you're applying for a job here. So things like, if you're talking about threat detection and mitigation, great words to be using in your CV. Security incident response, policy development. These are all kind of things that directly correlate to cybersecurity standards like ISO 27001. If you're including terminology that we'd see in these kind of security standards, then it gives us as employers the confidence that you know what you're talking about. So encryption and data protection, fantastic. Obviously, data protection is a massive part of cybersecurity. We deal with it every day in the cyberspace. If you've done so security awareness training, security audits and compliance. If you've ever been part of an audit, or if you've ever done any compliance work, we'd expect to see things like security audit and compliance. Network monitoring and analysis, if you're looking at more technical stuff. Security risk assessment, those kind of terms that we see all the time across like ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials, SOC 2, all of these big security standards use those kind of terms and terminology. So get that in your CV for sure.
So you've nailed in there some really good keywords you use for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
When we're also writing these CVs, we need to make them feel like it's actually someone has done those things and it's not just keywords thrown in there. So different languages used there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like personal identity, that you've personally been responsible for some of these things. Because the more responsibility you've got for I don't know, say, implementing some security measures, if you're writing that I implemented these security measures, using that kind of personally identifiable language is fantastic, because that's what we want to see. Because at the end of the day, we're here to, when we're analysing a CV, we're looking at you as an individual, so we want to see that you've been directly responsible for some of this stuff. So you'd write, I implemented, or I managed, or I analysed, or designed, or if you've led a project, I led this, those kind of key words would be amazing, and sort of thing that we'd love to see in a CV.
I feel that's something that's going to be quite a subtle, when you're doing it yourself, you won't really think about it, but if we're reading it, it's going to be a subtle thing to think, actually, this guy knows what they're doing, they've actually done this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's just little, like, it's those little tips and tricks that really enhance your CV a little bit. So instead of saying something like, oh, I improved network security, you just want to enhance that a little bit. So you could say, well, I enhanced network security by reducing some vulnerabilities by 25%.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's quite a specific cybersecurity measurement. It may not be directly transferable to you, but it's just getting in the mindset of having that language method of just enhancing your sentences a little bit more. Adding some like analysis, some statistics and things in there is brilliant. something to be mindful of, I think, when you're writing these things out.
Yeah, definitely. Key takeaways we have at Prickler, and particularly Harry is really fond of, is when you put a CV in, is to put on a cover letter.
Yes. Yeah. So it's interesting because you and I were having a conversation off air about cover letters.
Off air, that sounds good, doesn't
it? Yeah. About cover letters, because I said I've always provided a cover letter with a CV. You said
I've always done the same.
And I think it's something that's almost being forgotten about. But when you provide a bespoke cover letter with a CV, I think it just shows you've gone to a little bit more extra detail, because we've all been in a position where you kind of just do blanket applications for jobs. You've got a CV, it has your skills and your experience on it, and you send it out to 10, 15, 20 employers, and you just kind of, which, you know, if you're struggling, you're looking for a job, then of course, like I've done it, we've all done it.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to find something in an industry like a cybersecurity industry, you need to finesse it a little bit more, and that's when a cover letter is great. So it just tells us a little bit more about you as a person, I think, which is great. Because at the end of the day, we do want to know who you are, what you like as a person, as an individual. I was one of the only people to include a cover letter for my job, and that's probably...
Yeah, I'm just going to... Sorry, I just grabbed my phone, so I'm going to Google if there's actually any statistics on it.
Yeah, interesting. See if it's like a dying art, people providing cover letters.
How likely...
And one quick tip, don't get ChatGPT to write your cover letter, because I bet a lot of people are doing that nowadays.
Oh, God, I bet. And your CV, probably.
Yeah, well, this is it. It will be picked up, I'm sure.
I think it would stand out like a sore thumb, actually.
I used to spend ages writing my cover letter. I used to sit there and spend so much
time. I used to get like writer's block. Sit there like...
and bear in mind, it'd only be a paragraph or two, not writing loads.
That's all I do. That's all I've done is put a paragraph in.
Yeah.
Literally of like why I would like to move into this specific job, industry.
Yeah.
That's what I did for here. I think mine was... I was just really interested in where cybersecurity was going. I wanted to be at the forefront, and I saw Periculo as one of those companies. And then I just literally then you just touch on a little bit about your interests in like cyber, because I moved from a different industry, so I had to like really show that I was interested. I think that kind of helped me a lot in that aspect. But
I was exactly the same. So in the hospitality industry, I had no real IT or technical experience, and definitely no cybersecurity experience. So I learned everything on the fly, just as it went. So I did have to create a bespoke cover letter about why I'd like to move into the industry, and it paid off.
Yeah. Was it a majority of hiring managers said cover letters were crucial to hiring their decisions, and 77% gave a preference to candidates submitting one.
Yeah.
There you go. That's massive.
There you go. Because I think a cover letter can almost be a brief summary of what you've got in your CV.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't need to be long. I'm not asking somebody to write a.
I wouldn't be surprised if you added a cover letter to it and had your CV underneath, if they've just read your cover letter and not even opened your CV.
Yeah.
And they probably read your cover letter, said, give him an interview, and then looked at your CV on the interview.
Absolutely. If you can kind of go through all the tips and that we talked about over the course of this podcast, and include a lot of that, think about including some of that language in your cover letter. Think about just touching on some of your experience, your skills, your extracurriculum activities that may be directly relevant to it. If you can include some of that in your cover letter, well, then your CV is just a list of facts, really. Because I mean, obviously, in this podcast, we haven't really spoken about including your employment history in a CV, because there's no real need to talk about that in this podcast, I don't think, because that's the purpose of the CV. I think you will include your employment history, and that's really just the kind of the facts. And, that's the non-exciting stuff. What we've talked about in this podcast is the additional stuff that you should be including in your CV, and the exciting stuff, and the stuff that we'd like to see included in the CV. Yeah.
So one key takeaway really to get yourself an interview, put yourself at the forefront, is add that. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, definitely add a cover letter. Yeah.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Sweet. Well, that's our CV advice.
Yeah, a little masterclass on CV writing.
Masterclass. Oh, that can be our title of the thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
There you go. I'll give it to you.
Cheers, Cory.
Catch you next time.